Congrats on the film. I loved it, and I love how you managed to make it quite in its some senses, a traditional action blockbuster, but with a kind of really fresh perspective on it. So congratulations! I really, really enjoyed it. So,
Wow, that's awesome to hear, Kara. Thank you so much.
so what was it? Were you a fan of the game, or what was it that made you want to bring this world to the big screen?
I was familiar with the game, and I can say I liked the game, but really what got me super excited was just like a lifelong love of the Indiana Jones franchise and that treasure hunting, classic treasure hunting movie genre. When I enrolled in college, I thought I was going to be an archaeologist, and that was largely inspired by Indiana Jones. I ended up being a history major, but I've always had a real love for the past and antiquity. And honestly, every time I go to Europe, like I just get geeked on the thought of like what's in that dried up moat below this castle. And so, yeah, I think it was born in me like a real just passion for the past and history and treasure hunting and that genre as a whole. And I think the folks that created Uncharted had a similar love for that franchise, as well as, you know, everything I just described. And so it's kind of like a full circle thing where I feel like they were very inspired by, you know, those movies that informed their game. And so it was a very natural progression for it to go back to the big screen.
Just to add, I am an archaeologist when I moved into film reviewing. So what I really loved was actually getting to see the sets that were built. And I really want to know, you really went to great lengths to build these sets. Why did you not just decide to make it easy on yourself and CGI everything? What made you want
to? That's that old school movie making quality, and that's awesome that you're an archaeologist. How small of a world. But yeah, I mean, it was born from that passion and just wanting it to feel as authentic and real as possible. And there was a real kind of nod to those classic movies and doing it in an old school way. So much so that the head of production for Sony, who's been doing it a long time and has been on plenty of sets, when he came to visit, he was geeked kind of like a little boy, just being like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. Like I haven't, you know, walking through those catacombs or in the crypt of the church, or that treasure, those stairs with the ante room that led to the treasure room. Like it was all just, it felt so real. And it was you know, as somebody who loves that stuff, just really exciting to get to play in that world. But I think it also helped the actors. Like, you know, it's tough to imagine what this, you know, treasure room might look like if it was all just blue screen. But when you're standing in it and it really feels like you're underground or you're whatever, I think it just informs the performance. It informs the reality of the story you're telling. So I felt so fortunate, and a lot of credit goes to our production designer, Shepard Frankel, who brought that whole world to life, and the exacting detail of like the way the ships were built, or, you know, so many of the locations just had this authenticity that just, it was inspiring.
Tom, I suppose touches on the same thing. Tom Holland has spoken about those incredible set pieces and doing those stunts, particularly the mid-air one. So again, instead of, you know, doing the CGI stunt, actually bringing those and getting him to do those, is that the same kind of idea, to just create a sense of as real as possible?
Yeah, I mean, we were really lucky to have an actor who's so capable with stunts. And so, you know, not everybody could have achieved that. Sometimes you don't have a choice but to go CG, or, you know, it's the back of a stunt guy, or, you know, whatever. But when you have an actor who's so physically capable and also so willing and excited, you know, to risk life and limb, you know, you don't have a choice but to put them front and center right in the middle of the frame and show the audience like, yeah, that's really him. He may not be actually hanging out of the back of a plane that may have been shot in a parking lot in Berlin, but still, you know, you get the idea that it's really him in the midst of all this action. And I think it makes the sequence all that more compelling.
one of the things that I really love is that this is a film not just for the gamers, but for film fans. Was that important for you to make sure that this isn't just for gamers? And was it difficult to make sure that you could create something that non-game fans would embrace as well?
Yeah, well, like we discussed, I mean, this movie, or I should say this property, is so informed by those movies that it's not it's not like we're making some alien video game or, whatever. It's a movie that's clearly inspired. Sorry, I'm mixing my words. It's a video game that's very clearly inspired by movies. I mean, it has a cinematic quality. The score feels like a movie score. When you play the game, you feel like you're in a movie. So, yeah, it wasn't a hard thing to adapt to the big screen, just because I feel like it lends itself so easily in that direction.
Tom and Mark have great chemistry, and they're not just two guys hurling insults at each other, learning to get along. They actually, you can feel the tension between them. That tension, that chemistry, was that organic, or was that something that you kind of worked with them to kind of create? Tell me about that.
No, I mean, they're just two of the most charming dudes you could hope to find, and they're both like really, really funny. Mark doesn't get nearly enough credit for his comedic chops. I mean, I think we all think of him as this, big budget action star, but if you look at him in The Other Guys or in Ted or in even The Departed, he's just really funny. Three Kings, he makes me laugh so much in that film. He's a really, really funny guy, and off camera, he's just he's just one of those, like, Massachusetts, just like has so many lines. He's just a funny guy who loves to talk shit. And so when you get him and Tom together, they just go back and forth, and Tom can hold his own. Tom's really funny too. So as a director with a background in comedy, as soon as we started shooting those scenes, it just was popping, that chemistry. And I can't take much credit for it. It's just who those guys are. The script was great. And then they added their own spin on everything and tons of improv. And it just was a delight to watch them on camera together. Like, when I was shooting the movie, I just was thrilled, because I knew if I was laughing, that hopefully audiences would be too.
One of the things that we all know is that Tom is a huge fan of the game. So if you have an actor who's a fan of the game, is that an advantage, or did you ever have to say to him, hang on, hold your horses there now, just step away from the game land? How did that work?
It was actually a huge advantage having like a on-set fanboy who also happened to be the star of the movie. There's a couple different things that I can give him credit for inventing that made their way into the film. For example, when they first go down in that crypt and they have to turn the keys, when we rehearsed it, Tom's like, oh, it's too easy. We just come down, we walk up, we go straight to the thing, turn the keys. He was like, we should look around. He's like, if I can find something and press a button that then turns the Mary, and then we have to kind of solve the puzzle. He just felt like it was too easy and it needed more steps in it when we rehearsed it. And so, that night, the production design team got to work, like, making that little skeleton with the angel wings that he said was somewhere between heaven and hell. And then luckily that Mary kind of already did move, but it was really, based on his instincts. And the other thing that I can give him full credit for is that moment at the end when the two crosses converge. It was his idea that they function as compasses, and that they have the pins in them, and that the way they all kind of spin, that was really all his design as well. He thought it was just too easy. Once again, when we rehearsed it, he was like, there needs to be more steps in the puzzle solving. And that was based on his love for the game and knowing that in Uncharted, it would never be that easy for Nathan Drake.
That's really handy, so to have him around.
Yeah, he deserves a ton of credit. He is one of the most, just gifted actors. Just his instincts are so strong. And there's a reason I think, he's so successful at a young age, because he just throws everything he has into it. And he's not just thinking about what's my part. He's thinking about how can we make this movie the best it can be. And it's not all about him, it's about the movie. And so he's looking at the movie through the lens of an audience member as he's performing it. And like, if I was watching this, I would be stoked if, Nate did this or that. And so many things he added to and improved upon based on his both just natural instincts as well as his love and passion for the game.
Thank you. I am getting the wrap up. So I'd like to say best of luck with the release. I hope it goes down a storm. I have no doubt that it will. So thank you very much for the interview.
Thanks. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.